It'll be momentarily. Okay, I got the signal. We're ready to go. It is now it's still 7:05. I'd like to call to order the August 13, 2020 meeting of the Waukegan Planning and Zoning Commission. Can we have a roll call, please?
Anderson,
Here.
Bill,
Here.
Griffin,
Here.
Grimes,
Here.
Haug, Hintz,
Here.
Rivera,
Here.
Rodriguez,
Okay, we have 6 commissioners.
He's muted.
I just got muted for some reason. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, we have 6 commissioners. We need 5 for a quorum, so we are ready to go. Next item on the agenda is item 2.0, approval of the minutes of the June 11th, 2020 meeting. Do we have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve the
By
June
Commissioner
11th.
Bill, second by Commissioner Anderson. Are there any comments or corrections or changes to the minutes? I have one change that I would like to make. I'd like to recommend. Under old business, item 3.1, due to technical difficulties, Hugo Rodriguez was not able to participate in the meeting. Commissioner Rodriguez offered to return to his request once he was able to resolve the issue and join the meeting. Mr. Rodriguez requested, I'd just like to ask that we add the name Hugo, since there are 2 Mr. Rodriguez's in that paragraph. We just changed that to read Mr. Hugo Rodriguez requested. Who's taking that? Is that you, Kathy? Okay. All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as corrected.
So move.
Okay, we have the motion by Commissioner Bill, second by Commissioner Anderson. Roll call vote, please.
Anderson,
Yes.
Bill,
Aye.
Griffin,
Abstain.
Grimes,
Yes.
Hintz. Is that a yes? I'm sorry.
Yes, aye.
Rivera,
Aye.
Rodriguez,
Yes, motion carries. Moving on to item 3.0, audience time. What we're going to do tonight, in the past, we've had 2 separate opportunities for the public to participate. The first one would be the audience time, in which we would ask if anybody wanted to address the commission about anything that is not on the agenda. What we're going to do is combine this and just allow anybody to call in who wants to address the commission either on the item that's on the agenda or any other item. So the phone number that you can use, anybody that's listening that wants to call in, the phone number is 847-856-6412. That's 847-856-6412. And Kathy, are you going to be getting the phone calls? Okay. And what I'd like you to let me know if we have any calls come in. In the meantime, we're going to move forward with a couple of things. The old business item was withdrawn. That was item 4.1, zoning calendar 2602 by Hugo Rodriguez for a conditional use permit for a banquet facility at 917 West Greenwood. This was a presentation that was already made to us, and it was held over for various reasons. And we received an email, actually Russ Tomlin received an email from Hugo Rodriguez on August 6th, that's a week ago, saying, "Hi Russ, I won't be able to make the meeting. I purchased 2 properties in July and I'm currently working on them. I have also leased out the entire property. The banquet hall will be something that I may consider in the future." Okay, so that's the reason why item 4.1, zoning calendar 2602 has been withdrawn for the present. Okay, moving into new business, before we actually have the presentation, I have several letters that came in regarding this. I'm going to read them all into the record. And if we have any phone calls that come in during the time that I'm reading a letter, we'll get to the phone call as soon as I'm finished with any individual letter. And if not, then I'll just keep reading through. Okay, the first one is a letter. Yes,
Could I amend my prior recommendation to you for the order of these items?
absolutely.
Because we do want to allow for cross-examination after the presentation on the agenda item. If we can go ahead with the brief presentation and then do the public comment after that during this item, that would be technically better.
Okay, that's a change from what we discussed. That's a change from what we discussed a little earlier.
Yes, sir.
Okay, sure, we can do that. So let's move right into item 5.1, zoning calendar number 2604, and that's actually the only item, action item on the agenda today. That is a request by the petitioner, City of Waukegan, for the adoption of the comprehensive land use plan. And Noel, at this point, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, sir. So commissioners, as you know, you were provided a copy of the draft plan back in February at the same time the steering committee was provided that plan, and we asked for your feedback along the way. The steering committee since then met, and then COVID happened and sort of upset our schedule even further than it already was. So we had hoped to have this all happening sooner than it did, to have our public meeting in person, to have this meeting in person. Thankfully, Leslie and her team were flexible and worked with us and got us a virtual presentation several weeks ago for our public meeting, which was live streamed on the city's YouTube channel with about 35 people watching. And since then, the recording of that has had over 170 views. So it's been seen by a number of people. Hopefully you're among them. So tonight, I've asked Leslie not to make an entire presentation on the plan because that video is posted and available, but to just give us a brief overview of the document, and then I can give a staff report following that. So Leslie Roth from Ratio Architects, the project manager on our team, is prepared to talk to you tonight. Thank you, Leslie.
Thanks, Noel. Thank you all for helping move this really important and transformational plan forward for the city of Waukegan. The comprehensive plan is a document that lays out policies, strategies, and implementation for the next 10 to 15 years in the city of Waukegan. This is to support decision-making related to policy, and the document itself is separated into chapters that each deal with a specific element. Some of those elements were selected by the steering committee, and some of them were priorities of the stakeholders and community members of Waukegan that we uncovered during the public engagement process. The way that the document is structured is at the very beginning, it talks about how to use the plan, why it's important, and it's written in familiar language so that stakeholders can easily access the information in the plan as well. The next chapters in the plan deal with any number of elements, including land use, economic development, natural resources. We make some regulatory recommendations for zoning so that land use can be consistent. And then a variety of quality of life elements are discussed also, and an analysis is given on education, health and wellness, et cetera. Each one of the plans has a specific vision, specific goals and objectives, and specific strategies that roll into an implementation plan at the end of the document. The implementation plan is organized into short, medium, and long-term goals, and it provides a framework for each one of the strategies that are created, that are present in each one of the chapters for project partners to support with implementation. We realize that the real heavy work starts after adoption when the city with its partners begin the implementation process and actually bringing this document to life. We realize that the comprehensive plan is a living, breathing document and that other opportunities or challenges, such as COVID, as Noel mentioned, may impact the city's ability to actually implement some of the goals in the plan. The plan has built-in flexibility, and we encourage the Planning Commission as well as council to evaluate the plan on an annual basis and coordinate it with the capital improvement budget to ensure the plan remains relevant, that you remain responsive to it, and that project partners have an opportunity to support its implementation. We're really excited to have gotten to this part of the process with the comprehensive plan. It's been a pretty long road. This is a very, very dense document, and it took a lot of people to actually put the information into it, do the analysis, and actually create goals and strategies that are specific to Waukegan, and really to position the city for success in the future. Thank you.
Okay, Noel, do you have anything else?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as Leslie said, it's been a long process, longer than any of us had anticipated. So we're eager to move this forward. Our next steps after tonight, we're hoping that you vote tonight to move it forward to the City Council. Then we'll take the comments from tonight, combined with the comments that we already have, and get to Leslie and the team our final markups on the document, so that they can turn that around into a final version that will go to City Council as soon as we can get it in front of them. So we recommend your approval of this plan tonight.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to ask if any of the commissioners have any questions or comments for city staff.
Mr. Chairman, we
Yes,
have all
Commissioner.
read the letters, and I don't think we need to go letter by letter.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Anything specifically about the plan?
I think the plan was well represented in the video and the document. We have had some input, as you know, Mike, and stuff like that. And I think some of that has merit too. And it should be considered in the recourse of the final decision or the final draft per se. Specifically, I'm speaking about Thomas Vick's report.
Okay, any other comments or questions? All right, do we have any callers yet?
Michael,
Oh, hold on. Yes, ma'am.
sort of while this plan was taking place, there was an activating the Lake Michigan Water Trail in Northern Illinois plan also going on at the same time. Excuse me. I don't know how much this plan takes into account what the Lake Michigan Water Trail group was doing, but the two plans have a lot of overlap, and I would hope that there's kind of a formal way to speak to both of them at the same time. And I know they're not on this agenda, but I think, you know, Waukegan has its own separate piece in this water trail plan. And I just think that somehow staff probably needs to pull all that together. And maybe you already have, Noel.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please.
We are aware of that plan. Steve Sabrin has reviewed it and opined, given some feedback to them. And we've been part of that process. Also at the same time, the Connect the Northern Lakeshore Trails, the
Right.
North Shore Trail Connectivity Plan with North Chicago, Waukegan Beach Park, Zion, and Winthrop Harbor has been.
Right.
We've also been part of that team. And Leslie and her team are aware of those plans and have, you know, made some references to those, but Leslie and I can both check and make sure that those references are strong enough in the final document. And of course, those plans are also, if they're not now, they will be connected on our website as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other commissioners have any comments or questions just for city staff? Okay, I'd like to repeat again that Commissioner Grimes, were you going to say something?
No.
Okay, I'm going to repeat that number then. If anybody is listening that would like to call in, give you a few more minutes. Area code 6412. That is the public line to call in if you have if you want to address the commission on either the item on the agenda or any other item.
While we're waiting,
Mike,
Mr. Chairman,
our
perhaps
phone?
now,
I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
I said perhaps while we're waiting, now would be a good time to read through the sheaf of letters.
Okay, does anybody else have any thoughts on the matter? I was planning to read them. Commissioner Griffin mentioned that we've all received them and had an opportunity to read them. They are rather lengthy. Since this is a very important matter, I wanted to read them into the minutes. However, we can always just append the documents to the minutes. And it will take some time to read them. They're fairly lengthy. Does anybody else have any thoughts on that?
I believe we have some obligation to make sure that the salient points are read into the record, whether you read them word for word or just generally summarize them, I think would be probably okay.
Well, I have to follow legal counsel on this. So let me find the letters and get out your popcorn. Here we go.
During the public meeting, we committed during the public meeting that if people submitted written comments, they would be read into the record at this meeting.
Okay, that's what I understood also.
That's their expectation.
Thank you. Okay, the first one is from Jamie Rooksdale's, sent to planning at Waukegan, Illinois Gov, Thursday, July 30th, 2020. Thank you for the comprehensive land use plan for the city of Waukegan. As a community advocate for the city of Waukegan on many fronts, I wanted to be sure that we are accounting for infrastructure and clean air in our business development plans as we expand opportunities in the city of Waukegan. 1, include infrastructure and road improvement, especially on the retail gateways, innovation hub, and neighborhoods to improve access and safety. 2, ensure that zoning will account for land and air quality regulations as we expand new business development, welcome new residents to avoid plunging housing market impacts due to increased air pollution. 3, be sure to divide research companies from light industrial to understand the true impacts of business on our residential, commercial properties, and public parks. Thank you for your time and consideration, Jamie Rooksdale. Next item, to planning, City of Waukegan, from Stop ETO in Lake County, a citizen-led movement seeking to curb cancerous ethylene oxide, ETO, and environmental racism in Northeast Lake County. Subject land use plan, public comment, July 30th, 2020. We know that a high quality of life for the community is based on solid public health strategies, including reduced air pollution, clean water, and sustainable land use planning. With the proposed land use plan, we know that increased business development may further impact the proposed environmental conservation efforts, economic development, and the health of our community. We fully support the city of Waukegan in their efforts to develop this land use plan and would like to share additional considerations for your review. In order to realize the valuable assets named in the plan, Waukegan must also account for the following to build a vibrant and sustainable city plan. Current and projected air pollution. Include the current impacts and limitations to control air pollution within the city limits and understand impacts from Lake County, Illinois. Intersection of economic development and health. With increased economic development, cities like Waukegan will see increased pollution. The plan must leverage sustainable development practices that ensure the health and safety of the community with the integration of land, air, and water plans to improve public health disparities. Diverse and equitable community. The Waukegan community is disproportionately affected by health disparities and pollution. A comprehensive
Michael?
plan. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to seat Ted Haug, Commissioner Haug. Thank you.
Motion by Commissioner Anderson to seat Commissioner Haug. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chairman, I second that motion.
Second by Commissioner Hintz. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Anderson,
Yes.
Dill,
Aye.
Griffin,
Yes.
Grimes,
Yes.
Hintz,
Yes.
Rivera. Rivera,
He's muted.
Was that a yes? Commissioner Rivera?
Yes.
Okay,
Rodriguez,
yes, motion carries. Welcome, Commissioner Howard.
Sorry I'm late at another meeting.
All right, where were we now? The Waukegan community is disproportionately affected by health disparities and pollution. A comprehensive plan must consider how to contain current and forecasted pollution, which compound health disparities in the community and impair the development of valued assets, including the beach, retail zones, and environmental ecosystems. Zoning, land, air, and water. The land use plan must also contain strict business regulations to mitigate risks which have previously prevented the city from obtaining funding from external sources, such as sizable federal funding for affordable housing due to existing air pollution. Accountability. Through the governance process and zoning, the plan should include strict policies for air pollution, air monitoring, and compliance policies with more specific designations for light industrial companies, especially if the plan includes key development areas like the Innovation Hub and Southwest Waukegan near Fountain Square. Okay, there are some references on the bottom, which I'm not going to read. Next letter from Waukegan Park District to Mayor Sam Cunningham. This is from Jay Lerner, Executive Director. Dear Mayor Cunningham, thank you for requesting formal feedback from the Waukegan Park District regarding the proposed comprehensive plan. Overall, we support the proposed plan and look forward to working with the city of Waukegan as it is implemented. We appreciate that parks, health and wellness, and environmental sustainability are prominent features of the plan, reinforcing the importance of parks to our residents and to the city's future and success. Below, we have highlighted comprehensive plan themes that are park related. The Park District is always open to explore turning vacant land into parks as described in Chapter 5, the environment. The opportunity for more parks in the community is welcomed. Many parks and small neighborhood parks can turn eyesores into important community resources that contribute to building community pride and improving the health and well-being of residents. The vacating of Jensen Court and transfer of the properties to enlarge Eugene P. King Park is just one example of our partnership. King Park is undergoing a $1.2 million renovation and will be open to public again in fall 2020, thanks to the city and state as funding partners. As the district renovates and updates its parks, we work closely with Lake County Stormwater Management to implement best management practices, alleviate flooding, and improve water quality in the Lake Michigan watershed. Currently underway is a project to reduce flooding at Bonnie Brook Golf Course. A Rebuild Illinois grant request was submitted that will reduce flooding of neighboring properties, including residences, Lewis Avenue, and the retail corridor to the east of the street. Along with the proposed state grant, Lake County Stormwater Management and the Illinois Department of Natural Resources Coastal Management Program have expressed interest in helping fund this project. We are excited about these partnerships and the opportunity to resolve a long-standing flooding issue. It is projects like these that move our community forward, and we are happy to work in partnerships to ensure these projects succeed. You may have noticed that the district has moved to more native plantings in parks to increase sustainability and improve wildlife habitat, especially for pollinators, and rain gardens can be found in many of our parks. We are committed to sustainable practices in our parks, and we appreciate this being recognized in the plan. I'm halfway through with this letter. Cultural affairs is an important initiative identified in the plan. The Waukegan Park District is an important source of cultural arts programming with a cultural arts department that sponsors programs in the performing, visual, and spoken arts, music, and history. We currently operate the Waukegan History Museum. Planning is underway to renovate historic Carnegie Library to serve as a public museum with rotating and permanent displays depicting area history. The Waukegan Symphony Orchestra and Concert Chorus provide several concerts annually and are a cultural tradition in Waukegan. We would be happy to participate in any discussion regarding cultural affairs and coordination of efforts in the community. The comprehensive plan encourages use of walking and bicycling, identifying the need to create more trails and connections, thereby increasing health and fitness through the use of non-motorized transportation. We continue to work with partners to develop trails and connections and look forward to future projects in partnership with the city and others that create more trails and enhance the quality of life in Waukegan. The health and wellness section should include the important role of the Waukegan Park District in the health of our community members. Facilities and programs that contribute to health and wellness of the community are a high priority and will continue. As one of 3 pillars of the National Recreation and Park Association, We continue to create facilities such as a field house sports, fitness and aquatic center, the Waukegan Sports Park, recreation centers, and parks with exercise stations and trails offering a variety of opportunities for people to exercise and stay fit, along with extensive programming with health and fitness as their focus. The Waukegan Park District is happy to participate in branding and wayfinding projects. As an example, this summer we coordinated a grant from the Illinois Department of Resources to provide interpretive signs for the Waukegan Park District, City of Waukegan, and Port District related to the Lake Michigan watershed and cleanup efforts. Public art, historical structures, and celebrities like Ray Bradbury and Jack Benny attract visitors and elevate the perception of the community. The Waukegan History Museum and Cultural Arts staff have created several walking and online tours that appeal to visitors and residents alike. The Carnegie Library project will add interest at the important corner of Washington Street and Sheridan Road, and we look forward to the renovation of this historic space. The Waukegan Park District is an active partner with the City of Waukegan and is ready to assist with the implementation of the new comprehensive plan. We will build upon existing opportunities and find new options that contribute to the well-being of our city. We would like to be involved structurally in the plan's implementation and especially the recreational development of the lakefront, and we look forward to working with you. Sincerely, Jay Lerner, Executive Director. And the last letter, the longest one of all. August 7th, 2020, Thomas E. Vick, AICP, retired, to the City of Waukegan, subject to review of draft comprehensive plan. I would like to preface my comments on the draft plan with a little background on a recent survey of what makes for success as a city goes through revitalization. James and Deborah Fallows, in their 2018 Summary of Public Opinion, Government and Policy, entitled Our Town, a 100,000-mile journey into the heart of America, observed 29 cities across America. From this survey of how communities, many similar to Waukegan, achieve success, they identified 10.5 critical and necessary factors for success. 1, people work together on practical local possibilities. 2, you can pick out the local patriots who makes this town go. 3, the phrase public-private partnership refers to something real. 4, people know the civic story. 5, they have downtowns. 6, they are near a research university. 7, they have and care about a community college. 8, they have distinctive, innovative schools. 9, they make themselves open. 10, they have big plans. Source, 10.5 signs of civic success, page 401 to 408, Our Towns. And the 1/2 was a partial tongue-in-cheek observation that a city on the way back will have at least one craft brewery, maybe more, and probably some small distilleries too. I would like to add one observation I made from the Fallows survey. Throughout the book, they consistently observed that successful towns often had a fully developed bikeway system. General comment, I find that the draft plan is a very comprehensive document embodying a wide range of objectives and strategies in need of accomplishment. Specific comments. Given my almost 45 years as a city and regional planner, urban designer with many implemented projects, including existing major Waukegan improvements, and extensive knowledge of transportation management, I could almost make a substantive comment on about every page of the draft plan. However, I view the draft plan as a comprehensive statement of needs with 3 exceptions, and should proceed through a process of refinement, the current step we are in, and winnowing down to implementable actions. Page 66, place type. Innovation Hubs Lakefront. The sites north of the city owned OMC property and east of the Union Pacific Railroad tracks have committed long-term uses, wastewater treatment, and electric generation. The remediation site at Johns Manville is at a great distance from expressway access, and its remediation timeline probably extends past the time horizon of the plan. As such, this area should not be recommended for redevelopment. The remaining city-owned sites along east-west Seahorse Drive and south to the harbor present near-term residential and associated use redevelopment opportunities as first identified in the 2003 adopted Lakefront Development Master Plan. See below. This area needs special attention now beyond the simple recommendation strategy 1, see page 41, to prepare it for redevelopment after the current COVID-19 pandemic is under management and the associated recession has been satiated. A first action will be to develop the necessary criteria and objectives the city wishes to achieve and the subsequent issues of a request for qualification to develop. Page 94 to 102, the bike and pedestrian network identified on page 87 is a much needed enhancement to the city of Waukegan. Fellows in the review of 29 successful communities identified in these cities, most similar to Waukegan, a pattern of providing circumferential bikeways. The plan meets this criteria with both an inner loop. Sheridan Road, Sunset Gulf, Des Plaines River Trail, and a series of interconnected paths along the southern part of Waukegan connecting back to downtown. That's 2 out of 4.5 pages. And an outer loop, Sheridan Road, Lionswood Path west of the Des Plaines River Trail, and a series of interconnected paths across the southern part of Waukegan connecting back to downtown. Page 94 of the draft plan presents a series of road diet strategies that allow for the provision of on-street bike paths. Road diets should be accomplished whenever repaving or stripping is to be done on any of these streets. Is that striping? Should that be striping? However, it should be noted, I don't know, that all recommended cross sections may not be appropriate along the tidal length of any street. For example, I reviewed the Washington Street proposal and noted that 2 diet cross sections are appropriate. The recommended 3-lane cross section with bike lane appears feasible from downtown Waukegan to approximately Edison Court. From Edison Court to Lewis Avenue, a 2-lane cross section with bike, vehicle shared lanes and allowances for on-street parking is more appropriate. The provision of on-street parking would require a new road diet cross section for this segment. Though I could find no reference in the plan, the integration of bike lanes and shared rights of way, bike auto, shared rights of way, bike auto will require that speed limits possibly be reduced. Further, the provision of a bikeway on Sheridan Road is possibly in conflict with the plan's recommendation to remove the Amstutz Expressway. See page 154, item 14. The removal of the expressway may impede the provision of the Sheridan Road bike lane due to increased traffic. Further, I recollect the city at a previous date had abandoned the idea of removing the expressway north of Grand Avenue. Needed plan enhancements. Historical context. The plan in its introduction notes that Waukegan is one of the oldest settlements on the shores of Lake Michigan. However, this is the only recognition given to this highly attractive city aspect. For example, the Near North Historic District, a National Register district, has been one of the most stable and improving residential areas of Waukegan since its federal recognition in 1978. The plan should recognize this and make provisions for its continued betterment. Additionally, Waukegan has a nationally recognized historical society with a significant museum collection. Further, this society is actively participating in downtown revitalization through the preservation of the Carnegie Library. These aspects, along with other National Register historical and architectural structures in Waukegan, represent a ready, attractive Waukegan magnet. The fellows would note that by this recognition, people would know the civic story. Page 4, Waukegan Community Unit District 60. This district is financially impacted due to its severance from the tax rateable industries located in West Waukegan. The Civic Federation in January 2020 looked at the effective tax rate for a selection of Collier County communities. An effective property tax rate is an estimate of the percentage of a property's full market value owed in property taxes during a given tax year. Waukegan's effective tax rate was 3.73%, the highest in this study, spanning the counties of Lake, McHenry, Kane, DuPage, and Will. A close look at a property tax bill for a home in District 60 notes that 55+% of the taxes generated go to the district. District 60 does not have land development authority. It is dependent on the city to encourage non-residential land uses within district's boundaries, thereby relieving the tax burden on residential property. Without this, the city has an effective brake on residential sales and development. The plan needs to address how this situation is to be remedied. The fellows would note that by meeting this need, you would foster a distinctive, innovative school system. Advanced technology. A section needs to be added to the plan that evaluates whether the city is technology capable of competing in the 21st century. If found lacking, the provision of a technology grid as well as, say, a transportation system would need to be implemented. Communities such as Chattanooga, Tennessee, have used technology enhancements to attract commerce and industry. This may be the key to downtown redevelop in the form of something greater than banks, government, and restaurants/entertainment, especially given its location relative to the UP North commuter rail line and the access provided to north suburbs and the city of Chicago. The fellows would note that the plan truly becomes comprehensive and as such fosters a concept of having a big plan. Next steps. As I stated initially, the plan is broad and extensive. This breadth is both a strength and a weakness. To overcome this weakness, its recommendations need prioritization and fleshing out. The first step, besides addressing the above comments and needed enhancement, would be to reorganize Chapter 7 so that short-term actions are readily identifiable. This will provide an initial statement of what is needed to move Waukegan forward now, and the word now is all capitalized, all capitals. Let me develop this thought further. The plan itself encompasses almost 200 pages of actions in need of accomplishment. To narrow this field and as such allow for focusing scarce resources, I recommend the following steps. Okay, we have like a little less than half a page to go. The current document with changes recommended by the Public and Steering Committee should be finalized and adopted. This would then set the stage for an action plan. Action plan. The Steering Committee, in coordination with the City Council and Plan Commission, should select a subset from the list of short-term recommendations that are most critical to the city's future. For each selected strategy, a detailed implementation plan with staffing, partners, timing, budgets, and sources of funding should be developed. Each strategy element would then be separately adopted by the city and moved to implementation. The above process is not meant to devalue those goals, objectives, and strategies not selected for the action plan, as many will be referenced as the city moves forward. Fellows would note that moving to implementation fosters viable public-private partnerships. I am available to discuss any aspect of the proposed plan. A letter from Thomas E. Vick. And I believe that's all the letters, unless I'm missing something. Do we have any phone calls? Okay, I'm going to see if I still have the number here. If anybody is listening that wants to call in, you still have just a few minutes. 847-856-6412. Okay, I'd like to ask if any of the commissioners have any comments they'd like to make about the letters or anything else they would like to say or ask city staff.
I'd just like to say that it's good to hear the input from the general park district and interested people. And I think it does have merit to be listened to. And I do agree with Mr. Vick's ideas as far as going ahead and getting this going. But at the same time, I think we need to make it a working document, not just a document. So from what I read and from what I get from it, he has some valid points. And I think that maybe Leslie Roth, maybe their group can take a look at that and see if there's any amendments. And I would give it up to the professionals and up to the city, because we're just going to make a recommendation. But that would be my recommendation, that they do listen or listen and look at the intent and see if there's an overlap or if it's a valid point or not.
I'd like to ask if the professionals have had a chance to look at this and if they have any comments they'd like to make about these letters. Leslie? Noel?
I think the letters have some valid points. And most of what I am hearing is already included in the comprehensive plan, with the exception of organizing the implementation chapter by short, mid, and long-term goals. However, the economic development consultant that we had on the team and the transportation consultants that we had on the team provided their expertise to the plan. And most of Mr. Vick and the other letters, it seemed like that information was already included. So if there's, unless I'm hearing that portions of the plan need to be developed, generally with a comprehensive plan, it's a guide for the city to take each one of the goals and recommendations and develop full action plans for each one of those, which I think Mr. Vick's letter also commented on. This is a living, breathing document. So, and it also
Exactly.
is sort of a snapshot in the history of the city. So we realized that, you know, almost 2 years ago when we started this project, that we're in even a different time, you know, today. So things will continue to shift and move. And the comprehensive plan is able to, you know, incorporate that change as time goes on. The idea of the comprehensive plan is that the overarching goals and vision remain constant, and that there's a path for the city to move forward. The specifics of each one of those goals will continue to move and change, you know, based on funding sources, capacity, time, you know, et cetera. So what we will understand is that this is a living document, that there will always be, you know, changes to it, and there will always be new opportunities. And we hope that, you know, this document is a framework and a guide, but we realize that, you know, it will continue to change, and that there's a lot of content there that is thought-provoking and is action-oriented and should give you a good blueprint moving forward.
Thank you. And I'm really glad to see that the city has taken on this project. And it's pretty clear to me that this is not going to be the final version, and this is going to go forward and will change and expand and develop as time goes on. So thank you very much, Ms. Roth. Thank you for all you've done, and you know, I'm very impressed with the work you've done.
Thank
and the
you.
city staff has done.
Mr.
Anybody else have any comments or questions?
May I add, Chairman?
Ms. Kisher-Lepper, please.
Thank you. So as Leslie said, it is a framework. As a comprehensive plan, it's sort of the macro view. And then the sub-area plans, the action plans, all of the different things that will follow this, those are the micro projects or the micro plans. So much like our prior comprehensive plan that were later followed with our downtown lakefront plan, our River Road plan, our Washington Street corridor plan, there will be things that follow this. This isn't the be all end all. It will lead to the specific directions that we want to go. It'll pair with existing plans like the trails plan, the water trails plan, those things that are already out there that are sort of on the same time frame. And from those pieces, since those are broader, for example, with the trails connectivity plan, there are specific recommendations in that plan that relate to Waukegan. So our staff will take those recommendations along with our comprehensive plan and figure out the action plan for those items. And then that becomes a follow-up document that moves us forward. And that gets merged then with our CIP in order to delegate the funding for the specific projects and designate how we move forward. So I agree with Leslie that this is the living, breathing, overarching macro plan.
Question, Noel, on the planning and zone. I mean, your planning committee, is that basically the task force, or is there going to be a special task force also formed to enforce and just review this document as it goes forward?
Ultimately, with you as the Planning and Zoning Commission, it falls under your purview. The steering committee, Tom Vick is a member of the steering committee. He obviously in that letter expressed interest in being part of a group that looks at action plans. And, you know, my team, we've all been really supportive over many years now of including members of the public in different ways. So I think we're receptive to your ideas as well as the steering committee's ideas. We certainly want public input on every plan that we do. It's very important to us to hear from the community and to have the documents that we draft and that we engage consultants like Leslie and her team to draft, to be reflective of the community, who the community is, how the community feels, what the community wants.
And Mr. Vick is an excellent resource. He certainly has a lot of experience and ability in this area.
That's true.
Okay, anybody else?
I had a question, and it's a comment. I'm not sure it's a criticism, but to me, so much of this plan really relies on governance, and it's only a couple of pages. And you know, some of this is structure, some of it's culture, but I think so much of the implementation relies on governance. And I'm just interested in if you can sort of summarize for me how you see this really working. I mean, a plan is a plan, but how do you see it actually being implemented? And how does the governance fit into implementation? Am I clear?
I think so. And I couldn't unmute myself for a second there. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I didn't.
I thought you were
looking at Leslie there.
I thought you were speechless there for a minute, Noel.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen all that often, once in a while. Really, the governance piece being more of a micro piece, I think follows this. So it goes along with the specific action plans and the project plans when we're going to move something specific forward. So, you know, as the broader idea, we're looking at how we can collaborate with partners and create actionable programming. But then in terms of actual governance, it's partly Planning and Zoning Commission, and then it's partly defined within the specific action plans for individual projects. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen that area a little more robust with some ideas on how to do it, because I think Waukegan's been working on planning for years. And as a citizen, I'm frustrated with the lack of implementation. And now I'm being perfectly honest, and I'm actually going on record. I hope, and I mean, I'm depending on this being different, but without structures in place for things to happen, it's going to sit on the shelf. And so I'm not sure how these structures are going to be built, who's going to be responsible, if it's city council, if it's planning and zoning, whomever, who begins to create structures and oversight, expectations, structures, oversight, and you know, an evaluation. And I'm done with my piece.
I think that's a very fair question. And I think certainly as the Planning and Zoning Commission, you have a role in that, to hold the staff to task, to ask us questions, to encourage more specific plans on individual aspects of this document and other ideas that aren't out there already. So certainly you have a role in helping to move this forward, as well as encouraging city council to move things forward. Ultimately, you know, they're the decision makers. Staff doesn't make decisions. We make recommendations to you. We make recommendations to council. Often they're heard, not always. But you can be advocates for this plan and for the actions that you believe in that are put forth in this plan and subsequent plans.
You know, clearly, and it does say in the plan that this is going to happen only through partnerships and a collaborative process. And I think with resources becoming less and less, that's going to be more and more critical. So, you know, I'm just looking for some structure for that to happen. That's all.
And as you know from experience, champions are really important to getting things done.
Okay, anybody else?
Mr. Chair, maybe a quick kind of follow up on that. So
Commissioner Hanson, please.
thank you. So Noel, you were talking about our role as planning and zoning kind of in that structure or governance, like maybe mentally I'm struggling a little bit functionally how that would work unless we you know, formally put it on the agenda every meeting or something like that. I guess how would you foresee us taking that governance role? And I mean, I'm open to putting it on the agenda if the rest of the commissioners are, but otherwise I'm not sure how functionally we would do that.
Sure. Well, part of it is because the comprehensive plan is the guiding document for the direction that we're going. We're hoping to follow this with the new zoning ordinance. We've applied for a grant for that, and I'm hopeful that we'll be able to start that next calendar year. So that's a piece of moving this forward, making the law follow the planning document. So your work on that effort will be key. And looking at projects as they're presented to you and really studying those projects as they're compared with the comprehensive plan to make sure that the things that you're recommending to City Council for approval fit what our plan is. And if they don't, if there's something better about the project than the plan, does the plan need to be amended, or is it just, you know, some flexibility that's already built in there? So really, for you, keeping that plan in mind moving forward as you make decisions and recommendations moving ahead. Certainly putting things on the agenda. Leslie recommended that we do an annual review. You know, that's something that you can help make sure that we're doing as staff and bringing forward to you. You know, and anytime any one of you wants to participate in a more detailed planning effort on any aspect of it, we welcome that participation as well. Your voices are important to us.
Yeah, I think that's really good. So thanks for that context. Maybe the only piece that's maybe still missing for me is us considering the plan when we evaluate things that come to us requires something to come to us, right? So it doesn't push that we are doing something. So I think that's maybe just the balance point, and I don't have the answer, but just maybe something to think about. And my second comment, I think maybe ties really well with that theme is, you know, I think what the last letter that was read in that rang home really well to me was kind of the idea of prioritization, because I think the plan is comprehensive, but there's a lot there to do. And, you know, we can either be average or below average at everything, or we can be really good at a couple things. And I would encourage us as a community to be really good at a couple things to start and then build off that and kind of keep that in mind as all of us are doing our work and as you as city staff are doing our work. So that's just, I guess, a general comment from me.
I appreciate that. And I think that follows very well. Leslie talked about the importance of partnerships, and that certainly is key. Teddy touched on that too, as did Jay's letter to us. And I think that those are really important aspects. Some of it is us looking at the low-hanging fruit here and whether it's low-hanging fruit for the city or low-hanging fruit for somebody else. So for example, maybe one of you belongs to an organization that has a focus on something that's in the plan, maybe getting that organization to move that piece further along, or giving us the contact information for that organization so that we can encourage them to move that along. Those little pieces help in a broader aspect above and beyond what the staff can do on its own.
Thanks, Stephen. Thank you.
No.
Thank you, Commissioner
one
Hintz.
question as far as the Leslie's group that put this plan together, after this is said and done, are they on a retainer fee or a consultant, or is it a done deal after they're done, or how is that going to be working forward?
Sure. Our contract was to get this document to completion. Any other plans in the future, we would do an RFP again, and they'd of course be welcome to participate in that process if they were interested, as are, the other firms. So we don't have an ongoing retainer. There were some options that they offered in response to our original RFP for some accessory pieces, and the city council just went with the original contract. So once we get council approval, Leslie's off the hook. And, then as we move forward, we'll just take each piece as it comes and go forward that way.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I wanted to ask my staff, Steve, if you had anything to add, or you think I missed something or misstated anything. Steve's been, as always, critical to this process and our others as well. And same with you, Douglas. Steve, you're muted.
Nothing to add.
I think everything was very well covered.
Okay, thank you both.
All right, thank you. We haven't had any phone calls, so I'd like to ask you, if there are no further comments or questions, I'd like to move forward. We are looking for a motion to recommend approval of zoning calendar number 2604, which is a request by the petitioner, City of Waukegan, for adoption of the comprehensive land use plan. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the adoption of the comprehensive plan.
Motion by Commissioner Anderson to recommend approval of the comprehensive plan. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Bill. Do we have any further discussion on this motion? If not, I'd like to ask for a roll call vote, please.
Anderson,
Yes.
Bill,
Aye.
Griffin,
Yes.
Grimes. Grimes,
Commissioner Grimes, are you there? We seem to have lost him.
Haug,
I tried to unmute him.
Yes.
And the dog says yes, too.
Hintz,
Yes.
Rivera,
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes, motion carries. All right, and this will come before City Council either September or October?
Yes, we haven't yet gotten the edits to Leslie, and I want to look again at the comments that were received tonight and make sure that we're reflecting the things that conform with the direction that we want to go, and take those into due consideration, not just having them read, but actually considered. We will get a marked up version back to Leslie, and she and the team can turn it around. And then when we get it back and have a chance to check it over, then we'll get it on the council agenda as soon as possible. So hopefully that will be September or no later than the first meeting in October, based on that agenda cycle. But Leslie and I haven't talked about it yet, and I'm not going to put her on the spot in a public meeting to give me a date when I don't have anything in her hands yet. So, but soon, as soon as we possibly can.
Okay, thank you. And before we adjourn, I would like to just thank everybody that played a part in putting this plan together and moving it to this point. You've done a great job. And this is something that the city of Waukegan really needs. And now I guess it's going to depend upon where it goes from here and what the city and the mayor decide to do to implement this plan. So I'm very optimistic in some regards, a little less optimistic since Teddy, you know, you and I have been involved in plans for a long time. And there's always been the question of, well, okay, we have the plan now what? And I'm really hoping that this serves as not only a guideline for what takes place from here on, but also as an impetus, as a motivation to all of us. I don't want to just say the city as third party. I mean, we're all part of this team. And I hope that this really serves as a motivation and an impetus to us to really move the city forward in the direction and at the level that we want to take it. So thanks to everybody, and let's just make it happen. So with that, I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Motion by Commissioner Anderson.
Chairman, I second
Ted,
that
do
motion.
something. Say, was that you seconding, Ted?
Mr.
Or
Chairman,
that's
that
somebody else?
would,
Oh,
that would be me.
Commissioner
Yeah,
Hintz.
second, yes.
Second by Commissioner Hintz. Okay, let's have a roll call vote to adjourn, please.
Anderson,
Yes.
Bill,
Aye.
Griffin,
Yes.
Grimes. Grimes. Haug,
Yes.
Hintz,
Yes.
Rivera,
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes, motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all and have a
Thank
good evening.
you.
Stay safe and healthy.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Everybody stay safe.